So welcome to Arty Farty Metal. Today we are just doing abstract tooth-like thing. The main part of this, I guess, the time-consuming part, is grinding back all the edges, making sure they're all smooth. In this case we're working with about 6mm steel, so thicker than the usual 3mm. And I'm just putting this first piece here. We have 2 pieces. Of course, the obvious thing is, before you remove the magnet and try and do the other side, make sure this is quite solidly welded on. Otherwise, when you try to pull off the magnet, the whole thing's going to fall down. Okay, success. Now, what I can see here, it's slightly off center. So when I weld it this time, I'm going to be pushing it a little bit to that side. So that's looking more central to me now. One of the difficult things is getting into the crack, the seam between the 2 metals. And for this reason I often lay, after I put the tack welds on, I will actually lay the sculpture on its side. It'll make my life easier. Now the other thing I'm going to do with this is change to a smaller welding rod. So this one's 3.2, I'm going to go to a 2.5. The reason for this is that if I screw up, I can then weld over it with a 3mm rod. What I'm going to do with this technique, I'm going to use the on-off technique. So down, weld, up, weld. Okay, so this was obviously too high, a voltage running through. I'm going to turn it down. Okay, so I couldn't really get into that crack between the 2 bits of metal too well. So what I've done is I've tilted it further to help me get in there. I'm also minimizing the tilt back that way. So you can see there's a tilt away from me, and there's also a tilt going off to the right. Well, as you could see here, I didn't really get into that crack. I've done a pretty poor job. So the angle at which you weld can make a big difference. So what I'm going to do, this time I'm going to hold it up by hand. Now sometimes if the welding doesn't start straight away, you may need to... Scraping the metal on the bench takes off some of the rust, which makes it easier to weld. I'm going to use a 3mm rod now on top of the 2.5mm. And I'm going to put another one of these things here. But I feel that this space is looking very blank. So I'm thinking with this one, I'm going to create a kind of snowflake, and then I'm going to put it in here. Let's see how it goes. One of the things that I often fail badly at is really getting right into that part where it joins. You really need to get right in here. So I've put it at a bit of an angle. I've done my first bit of welding. I'm going to try that again. Or do like 2 welds over it. But I've only done half of it because I want to try and do the other side and distribute the heat more evenly. I'm going to use the on-off welding technique, and I've got a 3.2mm rod. I'm going to hold things at a bit of an angle to make my life easier. Looking at that, it's not the world's best weld. Not only did I have a problem where I ran out of rod here, also here and here. So what I'm going to do is try and hammer that out. Okay, so now that we've got both of these pieces welded on, the next part is fabricating the snowflake. So I'm thinking I'll just use 3 pieces, and I'm thinking of some kind of arrangement like this. So that's the first one I'm going to weld. I can see that it's not completely straight on the right hand side, but I'm okay with that. So this is our finished snowflake. I didn't know what else to call it. I put a little tack weld on top. Just some little tack welds on the bottom. And now I'm going to put it on here. And you know, if you can't make something beautiful, make it interesting. And I think this little snowflake here has made it beautiful. I'm going to put a tack weld there, a tack weld there, tack weld around the side here. It's important to be able to get the angle grinder in, get off splatter. So I actually tack welded them on, and as I was hammering things, this third one fell off. So I'm just going to leave it off now. But one of the things I realised, or I noticed, was you can see there's a great big cut in there. I've only just discovered it. So what I'm going to do is put a weld in there to try and fill it up. So I filled that cut in with a weld. It's not something you really want to notice, but it's better to notice it now before you finish. So what I'm going to do now is go over all of this with a sander and make sure I've got all the splatters off. So I've just gone round all this now looking for bits of slag or splatters. Now I have noticed in here there's a little bit of splatter, and I'm going to use my Arty mini grinder to just take that off. And I would declare this sculpture finished. Just walk around it for a bit. And I mean, the thing is, you've got to try and make it interesting from as many directions as you can. Let's have another look around this.